Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on this ride down the history highway. The exit we're getting off at tonight is the Homestead Strike. The year, 1892. The day, June 30th. This is the day that the contracts of the workers at the Homestead Steelworks was about to expire. In, you guessed it, Homestead, Pennsylvania, just outside of sunny, beautiful Pittsburgh. This was to be a sit-down to discuss new contracts and pay scales. It turned out to be one of the biggest, most violent struggles between a union, the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steelworkers, and management, Carnegie and Frick. The workers at the Homestead Union were paid according, at this point, to a sliding scale which was negotiated by Carnegie, somewhat grudgingly, in 1889, which, of course, means that based on how much money the company makes is how much money you get paid. He did not like this because, of course, as a business owner, your main goal is to make money, and the more money you make in a sliding scale, the more money you have to give out. And he really wanted to get rid of that. Now, at the point that his contract is up with these guys, Mr. Carnegie here decides that it's time for me to go on vacation to Scotland. Normally, a vacation to Scotland doesn't raise any eyebrows to me or probably anyone else. But in 1892, this is the time where contract is up. And to me, if you're a boss worth anything, you're sticking around making sure everything's taken care of before you leave. Instead, he leaves the sliding scale to be negotiated away by Mr. Henry Frick, who is known not to be very friendly to anybody. So they sit down. They want to get rid of this sliding scale of pay, which really doesn't do any good for the business. It does more good for the workers, which I guess is good for them. But he proposes an 18% decrease in salary. 18%. That's a big cut. And in some places I've read 22 to 25% as well. So it depends on where you read, what source you get, what that pay cut was. Regardless if it's 18 or 22 or 25%, that's still a very big chunk of what you're making. Considering the cost of living at the time was skyrocketing. And the cost of living, as we know, is the amount of money you pay for things you need in order to survive, like rent and food and clothes and the like. All of those things, much like today, skyrocket and your pay stays the same. In this case, your pay was getting lower. So he leaves Frick to do whatever he really pleases, honestly. He gave him a free pass to do this. So the negotiations here between Mr. Frick and the workers are tense at best. And it's a constant battle. Frick said that if an agreement wasn't reached by midnight at 12 on June 30th, that he would stop altogether sitting down and negotiating with the union. And that time period came and went. So he stopped. He instead decided to negotiate one-on-one with people. So he negotiated with about 335, 340 people out of the 3,800. So now not only do we have a man who's in charge of the negotiation who nobody likes and has a really bad reputation, we have an 18 to 25% pay cut. We have cost of living going up. Now we have Mr. Frick deciding that he's just going to drive a further wedge between the workers that are in the union and out of the union in this factory to make them even more angry by one-on-one negotiations with these people. So we have all of these elements now increasing the tension in this place. This place is like a powder keg ready to go off. In response to what Frick does, the workers do what they know they can get away with. They make these little effigies, these little dolls of Frick, and they hang him from the ceiling like they're hanging him out to dry. They're hanging him to kill him. They're showing what they want to do with him. Frick responds by doing a couple things. Number one, he calls in, after we go on strike, he calls in Pinkertons who fancy themselves a detective agency, but they're more like bullies with guns or, best bumbling buffoons that call themselves detectives. and the Pennsylvania State Militia, and much like somebody else that we know, decides he wants to build a wall. 12 feet high, 3 miles long, covered in barbed wire to keep the workers out. So now we have a place that's on strike. We have a riot going on. We have people that are called in to take care of this riot. We have a full-on situation going on here. You know, it seems like a battle right now. Whatever you can do, I can do better. I make effigies and hang them from the ceiling. I break some machines. Oh, guess what? I'm going to call in the army on you now. The workers refuse to back down. They refuse to leave, even when they're faced with the Pinkertons and the militia. This turns out to be a really big battle, and actually all in all between June 30th and July 23rd, 16 people die. 7 Pinkertons, 9 workers. And to be honest, Henry Frick really did achieve his goal here of weakening the power of unions in his business, which is really what he set out to do in the first place. And this really caused the unions to have less support because they realized people were looking at from the outside here, looking at it and going, well, if this is what the unions are all about, then I don't want to be this. Because none of the people that were involved in the union or in the strike were ever rehired by Carnegie at all, ever. So the questions that we really, really need to ask at the end of this are questions of, does the fact that he achieved his goal make his methods and results worth it? And the other question to ask, who is really to blame for the events that happen? Is it management, Clay and Frick, the Pinkertons, or the workers, or a combination of all of the above? I'll leave that to you.